actually don't think, I think in one way he was right. I think that so much Parliament has become so discredited in the public mind that a lot of people didn't much care. Let them meet or not meet. What difference does it make to our lives? But when he told them that that's what they think, that's what pissed them off. And it was that. I mean, thank God. I think that backlash against prorogation probably will deny Harper a majority. They may still be able in the next election to come out and form a government. They may still pull that off, but I think it's going to be very, very difficult for them to form a majority. And before this, I thought that they might have. There was a chance that, I think there was not a bad chance they could have formed a majority government, imagine. So it's that. Also involved in being responsive is being respectful. Now, what I mean by being respectful is that you don't treat people in a demeaning way. I think that Harper's generally the conservatives' disrespectful treatment in this regard is well illustrated by his linking of his attempt to link prorogation with the Olympics. It has echoes of the Roman circus, doesn't it? It's the Roman circus. I'm not saying, he shouldn't have been proud of the Olympics and all the rest of it, although that owning the podium business was something I had trouble getting my mind or feelings around. But nonetheless, that's not it. It was by linking those things, that's not respectful. It's the attitude, I can buy you folks off. I can buy you off. I don't have to worry about these. That's a disrespectful attitude. Thirdly, and finally, with respect to responsiveness, parliamentary democracy requires honesty. And what I mean by that, and here's a case where I don't mean to single out the Conservative Party as the only party that contributes to the denigration of parliamentarianism in Canada. I think that all of the parties are guilty of a lot of the things I've described, but certainly they are all guilty of dishonesty. And what I mean by that is, it's in a grand way. What I mean is this. I think it would be terrific if some political party would say, we stand for the following 6 things. Right? These are the 6 things we stand for. And if you elect us, here's what we'll do to implement it. We'll raise taxes here, we'll do this, that, and the other thing. If you don't agree with us, don't vote for us. That's not the way it happens. Instead, each party tries to be all things to all people, or one thing to this part of the population, and then they get on their plane or whatever, and now they're in Saskatchewan, and then something else to that part of the population. That's dishonest. I think that dishonesty is a symptom of non-responsiveness and is inimical to parliamentary democracy. Thirdly and finally, so far I've talked only from the side of the government, but now from the side of the populace. I think that this is something that must that finds one of its really important and wonderful examples in your group. I think that democratic engagement, active political engagement, is essential for a well-functioning parliamentary democracy. Again, the Schubertarians that I've talked about before, followers of Schumpeter or Hayek and Tullock and Gordon and all the so-called realists, when they looked at these studies that were done in the 1950s and 60s in the United States mainly, that showed apathy, public apathy, low voter turnout, and so on, and politicians and people in journals were wringing their hands, isn't that terrible? Their view was, so much the better. Democracy doesn't want an engaged citizenry. You want an apathetic populace. Otherwise, you can't govern. Always the parliamentary leaders, the members of parliament, looking over their shoulders, wondering what the populace thinks. Well, the whole idea of responsiveness is they ought to wonder what the people are thinking. So the exact opposite of that approach, the what's wrong with apathy approach, is that a healthy, a vibrant parliamentary democracy requires an engaged citizenry. The more engaged people are, the more informed they will be, the harder they will be to bamboozle, the more they will be able to bring actual clout to politics at all levels. Also, political engagement has a kind of, it's like, what do they call it in educational theories? It's a transferable skill. It's something like a transferable skill. Being actively engaged in a university or your neighborhood or a club or in a social movement or around environmental issues and so on has a way of transferring over to other domains as well. It alerts people to the fact, first of all, that people are capable by direct action on their own part to govern themselves. It allows for the notion of a self-government to have a real meaning. And there is a place, and I'm going to conclude with this, where I think that self-government, to help solve that paradox, does have meaning. Not if you're looking at a national population and you think that self-government is supposed to be the sort of unified, homogeneous action of this one body. I really do think that that's just completely, not only unrealistic, but it's not something, it wouldn't be good if you achieved it. It would be the kind of thing demagogues like and totalitarians like. But self-government in an entirely different sense, I think, is possible, and not always easy to achieve, but it is possible, and it is good in itself, and it's also good for, it makes parliamentary democracy stronger and more vibrant and responsive and responsible. And that's the case where in a multitude of different venues, local venues typically, individual people working with other individual people confronting the same problems, environmental problems, problems of pollution, problems of equity, and so on, take direct collective action into their own hands. When they do that, they're governing themselves. That's self-government. Those are my comments by way of introduction of this topic.